It's Captain Asia with Captain Russell, Captain Curator Russell.
Okay.
What is it? Puncher? Hole puncher?
This small piece of sculpture needs to be installed.
Oh, really?
Inside
Okay,
this.
you're making a sculpture, all right, no problem. Make a painting.
We're doing an install.
So, dude,
This is a byproduct of the sculpture, a socially engaged.
it's a document.
Do you know what this is called? This-
Screw?
No, the hatch marks.
No.
Knurling.
Knurling.
K-N.
That sounds knurly.
It's knurling.
This is what I want to. Okay, I'm gonna throw some weird stuff. So last night, I'm pretty sure I came up with like a system that can accurately arbitrate anything, any value on the planet, according to a best outcome for the planet.
Okay.
It's like a planetary value system.
Got it.
And then I was like,
Data.
yeah, it could just be like, this is like, with like a 10% margin of error, this is the range of an optimal.
Plus or minus.
Yeah, for any kind of negotiation or transaction between something that's outside of somebody's head, basically.
Okay.
Something that is non-psychic, in like an internal world.
Physical.
Yeah, something that deals with something physical, as long as it has this tiny bit of physicality in relation to the planet, you can pretty much like 90% determine.
Are electrons physical?
Electrons are physical, yeah. So if somebody's talking about like a purely imaginary world, that's up to them, right? It's like, okay, no problem. But once you want to be like a little bit of physical stuff is in there, the system can just like, but then I was like, what? Nobody's going to use this.
But maybe it's just for our use.
Maybe, yeah, you can do a
Sell
lot of
the
things.
Results.
Huh?
And monetize the results.
Totally, like I don't mind doing that. But I was like, oh man, it's like potentially this could save it. I thought it was funny as like a planet saving system exists, but it's not going to be used.
There's not the desire.
Exactly. It's like, I think it's funny. It's almost, I was like, this is an incredible artwork, but it's just like, I just like announced that it's like verifiable that any problem can be solved on the planet, but it doesn't have to be used. I think it's so funny.
So does it involve calculating the mass of everything, so to speak? Like the earth that's available, the water that's available, the air that's available?
Yeah, you can do all that.
People
Yeah.
that are there.
So it's kind of like an
The
demand.
foods that
Yeah.
are eaten.
It's kind of like an on-demand computation. So it's like, it's less like constantly monitoring everything and more of like, okay, we have a reference pole, which we can stake. Maybe it's in water or something, or it could just be gravity. Gravity would be the primary reference pole because it doesn't really change that
Unless you
quickly.
leave the orbit.
Unless you leave the orbit. But if we're doing things on the Earth, physical things,
Right.
we just stake it in gravity, and then be like, well, I mean, you can even update if it does change.
Is gravity a constant?
It is a constant on the planet, yeah.
But there are different places that have more gravitational
Yeah.
energy than others.
Or yeah,
Like
the
it
pressure
varies.
is different, yeah. But for the most part, the surface of the Earth is pretty uniform.
Right.
Small variation.
And there's pressure in water.
Right. So like, if you stake from there, you can pretty much calculate. So like case by case basis, like what is the value of these prints over here?
Right.
You can calculate. Okay, in relation to gravity, it's pretty easy to calculate. Yeah. And also like, I know that sounds crazy, but you can.
So but that would be its weight, would be giving it value.
So there's this other thing. It's like, I found that the complexity science, it's in neuroscience, they have a principle of they basically revised natural selection
Okay.
into a pretty tight thing that's like, I'm pretty sure it's like irrefutable. So it's like,
Like the parameters.
yeah, how to describe natural selection. So it's not about like competition, it's actually more about imagination. So
How do you algorithmize imagination?
oh, so you can be like, so I was phrasing it as paradigm shifts,
Okay.
which are comprised of like physical and informational elements, both. So you're not gonna be like, it's just this or that. So you can be like a scale of a paradigm shift. So like some paradigm shifts are like planet scale. Like if we have a formula for to calculate the planet, that allows us to manipulate
Right.
things at a planetary scale. If we have a formula, or if we have an artwork that shows us how to use this thing, that's constrained within how many of these things there are. Maybe there's a billion also of them.
Right.
So
I mean, technically, this is art.
this is totally, yeah.
Since 1912.
Exactly. Or like Peter making jacket art. We can be like, jacket art is defined by the jacket. So there's limits here. And then we can be like, okay.
But the jacket is an envelope or container
Right.
for infinite value.
Information, yeah.
Infinite.
Right. But it's also like
Which can be valued.
Right. And it could be like, is the information decryptable in English only? Or humans only? Or blah, blah, blah. So you can also
Machines
limit.
only.
Exactly. So we can limit the range of perception it's focused on. So once we can just kind of box it in, and then you just make more little kind of like close in on it. You can really, it's really boring way to measure things.
I like the idea of it, though. It reminds me of the project that we did for the NEA in the 80s. I worked for the research division.
Okay.
And they wanted to quantify, they didn't feel like that there was an accurate piece of research that quantified artistic activity in the United States.
Not in the US, no. There isn't.
And so we tried to do it.
Really?
The best we could.
Huh.
It was called State of the Arts. And I have it somewhere. But the database that ended up being the most useful was the Annual Index of Art in America.
Okay.
Which is published in August. And it lists every gallery, you don't have to pay to be in it.
Okay.
Like everything that they could possibly find was a gallery, a museum, whatever. And it showed all the things they did that year, like a compilation. And they published it as an issue of the magazine, so it was even thicker than usual. I have 4 or 5 copies downstairs from different years. But that was after looking at tons of different ways of, and it had to be kind of officially aggregated. We weren't in a position to do surveys.
Sure.
For this,
Yeah.
we had to go on sort of using our wits to figure it out.
No, it's pretty cool. I mean, like, I also thought, I mean, like, when I was doing, I was like, I actually started enjoying, like, measuring, because it's like putting together a puzzle.
Right.
It's like forensics, right? Or like archaeology.
Have you talked to this forensic sculpture guy?
No.
He's teaching a class.
Oh, really? Okay.
In,
I'll
sculpture.
go talk.
I haven't talked to him yet either, so we should buttonhole him.
Yeah. But I thought it was,
It also feels like books themselves are tremendously cataloged.
Yeah.
And could be used as a valuation
Yeah.
referent.
So, exactly. So it's like the system of computation I was coming up with, it's like semi-rule. It's like there's like a loose set of rules based on like the most consensus agreed upon points of physical reference on the planet. And we're going to continue to the planet. You don't have to deal with the universe.
Right.
It's a separate problem, bigger problem. But like, if you start like there's like 4 or 5 points of reference, and then from there, so what happens is like, there's this other form, so of category of information called inference,
Right.
which is like, that's what scientists say, all data is made of inferences. So that, by implication, even market data is inferences.
Right. Yes, it's not accurate.
No, yeah, right. And
They
then,
eliminate, they clean the data, right?
right,
They take off all the anomalies. So
right, yeah.
you
So
do that in reverse and just value the anomalies.
you can value, exactly. And then it's like, as long as you have this physical pole, which connects, so like if you just do inferences to inferences, it just becomes the sea kind of mess.
Forest of science.
Exactly. It's just like, you're like, holy crap, what inference is the, higher, there's,
Like the internet.
exactly. It just becomes inference C. But if you have a physical reference, a few physical reference, you can easily start to kind of weight inferences and triangulate them with very little effort, addition. And like you said, so what's interesting is like, you're saying some inferences are accurate and some are less accurate, right? So like, I was actually looking up the definition of accuracy. It was just like a stupid thing. I was like, what does accurate actually mean? How accurate is this definition? So it's amazing because accuracy, I think it actually literally deals with inferences, like accuracy of inferences, but the inferences, so the way it differentiates accuracy is like kind of two criteria. It's like statistics and kind of its fidelity to a physical process or mechanic. So it already has this built-in it already has this built-in reference to the planet, kind of obliquely, and physical mechanics.
Right.
Like there's already this kind of built-in assumption that like market data or something should be valued in relation to
Nielsen ratings.
Nielsen ratings, yeah.
Complete bullshit.
Yeah.
Complete bullshit.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like,
But also like algorithm, like on YouTube, like viewers, likes,
exactly.
comments.
So it's like that's ridiculous because it's also really funny. I didn't even think about that. That's physical. That like if we just insert this poll, it's like, okay, how accurate are how accurate is this inference of value upon this like video? Then it's like when we say accurate, it has to deal with some type of physical relation. Viewership. Right. Or so we can say about the viewers as bodies, but then we get deeper and we're like, the bodies are governed by the probabilities of the planet also. So then
probably by the algorithms.
All the algorithms,
capitalist algorithms that Facebook is based on.
Right. So definitely the algorithms in use now are biased towards like just extracting value and like kind of stimulating chemicals.
Right. And what is it called? When one business is there's a paradigm shift and that business is obsolete.
Oh.
Well, there's a word for that. Disruption.
Disruption, yeah.
Yeah.
But like, what does it say? Yeah, so the thing is this is an interesting thing because we get into probabilities.
Right.
And then we start talking about discussing numbers. But also what's, again, about accuracy is like, so when we talk about the accuracy of value, so there's the physical principles of the planet that govern probabilities, that predetermine, not like predetermine outcomes, they kind of predetermine the outlay of probabilities because it's like
they're reflected in those things.
Yeah, reflected in those because like the chemicals that stimulate the dopamine are constructed probabilistically a certain way to deal with the planet's gravity.
Right.
So they're already kind of probable. We're already kind of pinball machines weighted a certain way. Like our eyes are on the front,
right?
So we get a lot more information. Yeah.
And you want to shake it.
You want to shake it, yeah. Which is what the systems are taking advantage of, is like how our perceptions are weighted probabilistically to keep us stimulated. They kind of find a hack our loop to keep us stimulated. So like this, it just becomes interesting because it's like a very tiny, like very like acupuncture move,
right?
But it fits into like every single piece.
It's like acupuncture.
Exactly. Yeah.
There are nodes.
Right. It's not a so it's not a what's it called? It's not like this religious system that has to be.
No.
It's not a grid laid on top of everything. It can just like.
It's a noticing of relations.
Exactly.
That are, you can find your acupuncture points, and you can tell when you've got it because it feels a certain electrical pulse right there.
Yeah.
That's why probably Chinese religion or Chinese philosophy was like basically animistic.
Yeah.
Based on observations of the physical properties.
Exactly, and they're just using metaphor to communicate.
Right.
What I would understand is accuracy of inferences,
Right.
like the physical dynamics and the probabilities of
The I
systems.
Ching is a kind of poetry.
Yeah.
Poetry in motion machine.
Right. No, it's I always understood it as a computer, and it's kind of probabilistic.
Yes, but the interpretations of it.
Exactly, creative also. Which,
yeah. Could be super minimalist, broken line, solid
right.
line, the
right.
hexagrams.
Right, which plays with the kind of your eyes kind of own computational.
And if there are 64 combinations
yeah.
of things that, based on your question or your what you're thinking when you're casting the I Ching.
Right, because what happens, or what I understand when I was messing with it, is that like it's like you have these parts that are moving independently, so then you interpret the combinations. You create combinations in your head through your interpretation. You like inferentially
right.
produce meaning.
Right.
But you have agency, it's not predetermined.
Right.
Interesting.
It attaches your agency to reality. It's the prism
right.
that you
Huh.
look at. But I also so what are the things that you could track? You could probably track like food habits, like eating.
Yeah, you can really do this is what I was like blowing my mind last night. I was like, oh my god, this could like calculate anything, but of course it takes time and energy to compute. So I was like, we have to be like, the way it's computed, it's like you can start anywhere and go like get to pretty good
right.
resolution. So it's like it really can compute anything on the planet. So I was like, but so that would be the thing. It's like, look, we just say computation takes energy. So
right.
It's up to you. This is why I think it's interesting. Yeah, we could solve like the food, all this stuff. Like you can solve individual scale. You can solve across all scales.
Right.
As long as you properly define it.
And I think that's what the I Ching
Was also doing, yeah.
It
was a general computer.
It's like the first computer.
Yeah, it was a general purpose.
Yeah, 64 gigabytes.
Exactly, 64 gigabytes, exactly, hexagrams, hexa-units. But, wow.
Is quantum computing hexa-units?
I don't know, they call it qubits, so it's like, they image it.
That's 6 sides.
Hexide. Yeah, you could break it into that geometry for sure. Like you could section it. There's no like rule against it. But
design a quantum computer based on the I Ching.
Oh, I was actually gonna this is one of the cool things. I was gonna design a computer that could that was computing consciousness. And
Okay.
it's universal consciousness. Like
the collective unconscious.
Yeah, like a universal sense of consciousness. You know how people are like,
the global village.
Right, like people are like the AI is gonna like be an asshole, or
right.
It's gonna be like it's thinking about it's gonna become a human individual.
All these shows and movies.
Yeah. They're like, oh, it's like the AI wants to date or something, But it's like, no, what if the AI is like Buddha or like Yoda, yeah. It's like it's actually easier to code an AI that's like Yoda because they follow rules and parameters.
Right. Yeah. Non-violence.
Yeah, it's just like it will never do that. So it's like it's pretty simple to create. It's a lot simpler to create that than it is to create like a humanistic.
Well, but it's easier to create a capitalistic. Is it though?
No, it's actually not.
It's the same. It's just as bad.
It's just as bad. It's like the thing is like liquid. It's just like you push or pull.
Right. Yin and yang.
Yeah.
Dualism, not dialectical materialism.
Yeah. No, totally. That's a funny thing. The funny thing is like how like because dialectics is a pain in the ass for a human to keep track of all the branches and like make sure the structure is correct. But for a computer, it's like so easy. Yeah, you can code Marxist.
Did you guys decide what time you want to do that?